everybody, thanks for tuning in. We are the Story Arcs. I'm Binx.
And I'm Max Prime.
So today we're here to talk about the newest movie that's coming out from Valiant Comics, which is Bloodshot. It launches on March 13th, and we're super excited to be here with you guys to talk about this. It's actually the first movie that Valiant Comics is throwing their hat into the ring on the newest superhero movies that are coming out this year.
Bloodshot is a very, very dynamic character from Valiant Comics. It's been around since the 90s. The character is basically a former soldier whose family was killed. He's basically the quintessential assassin hitman who has nanotechnology, nanites in his blood that can make him shapeshift. He can regenerate his body. He's kind of like the Punisher and Wolverine kind of combined minus the claws. And he's a very resilient character who's been around for years, and this is Valiant Comics' chance to actually bring Bloodshot to the mainstream as far as superhero movies goes. And like I said, just like you said, this is Valiant's shot at bringing Bloodshot to compete with DC and Marvel.
Yeah, going into that, so one of the things that is a good move overall was casting somebody like Vin Diesel to be the forefront for this very aggressive, very warlike soldier comic book character. So Vin Diesel is best known for obviously the Fast and Furious franchise. We've seen him as a superhero before when he played Riddick. So clearly he's more than capable of playing this anti-hero, very strong, masculine, war-type hero. So the coolest thing about this is obviously they're starting off with a great cast. If you haven't checked out the trailer, go ahead and check that out. But it seems like it's really well set up. The only con that I kind of have going into this is how much into depth are they going to get into the things that we know about Bloodshot? So, for example, the history with the Harbingers, or even something that I noticed in the trailer that was kind of off. So, like, the biggest part of Bloodshot is his involvement with Project Rising Spirit and how they're kind of in control of everything, in control of his memories and trying to use him for their own profit. But within the trailer itself, we already hear the kind of change where it's not even Project Rising Spirit. They refer to it as RST. So does that mean it's something more like Rising Spirit Technologies to be more modernized? Or how much of the details of the Bloodshot comics are actually going to be changed to feature this full-length film for Valiant Comics?
And I was also wondering about Bloodshot movie in regards to the Valiant comic books, because all Valiant characters are kind of tied together in this continuity of their universe. Like Exo Manowar was a character from the 90s of Valiant Comics. Wondering, will they get, or will that character get a debut within the, could we call it the Valiant Comics cinematic universe? Could that be an upcoming phrase that we could possibly use soon? I was wondering about the character Rai. Rai is also connected with Bloodshot, who also kind of shares the same nanite technology that's also in his blood. So I'm wondering, like, will this eventually, if the success of this movie, and let's say if Bloodshot does an amazing job in the box office, will they consider bringing out other Valiant comic characters to, again, maybe try? I know that most companies might not feel like they have the strength to compete with the DC or a Marvel, but if Vin Diesel can actually be successful, will they bring out the other characters to try to have a little bit of competition?
Well, on that point, we're not really going to know until the movie launches. Just on the trailer, it's kind of a very simplistic format. So just like you mentioned to me before, it's kind of very Groundhog Day when you look at the trailer of like him continuously reliving his memories at a constant rate being altered. So we don't really get much information on exactly what the layout of the movie is going to be. And moving forward, that's really what's going to make the difference. So is this going to be a one-hit wonder type of movie where it's just like a great action movie but doesn't have really much in line with the comics? Or are they really going to go into depth with the characters that we've mentioned? So like the Harbingers, the Exo Manowar, if they're really going to want to introduce these things in the typical way that we're used to seeing in the MCU or even in DC, although DC doesn't have the same continuity. But just kind of creating that cinematic universe where the crowds definitely feel emotionally involved and consistently want to come to the theaters to check this out. So I think they did a great job by picking Bloodshot as their first person. It's the character that's most well known from Valiant Comics. It's a great way to kind of kickstart their journey into this battle between the different comic books.
I guess my final thought overall of Bloodshot, just like off of everything that you've said so far, I'm just hoping that people can relate to this movie as a comic book film and not just another action hero, another action adventure movie, and nobody realizes that this is actually a comic book character. And I think we had the conversation before where we hope that there's some type of a reference that people can understand that this is from a comic book, whether in the beginning of the movie they show comic book pages turning, or they show each scene going from a comic book panel to another comic book panel. And I think I've seen that in other movies like Sin City maybe, or something like that style. But I hope that they can actually translate to make people who are not comic book fans realize this is a comic book movie. And then for those who are comic book fans, know that they did the right job and make people feel that, yes, this is a comic book film and not just another action hero movie.
My final thought is I'm really excited about another competitor coming into the ring versus everything that we've seen. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is a huge monster machine that's constantly pumping out movies. We have the DC Universe changing up everything that they've done, trying to reformat what we've seen from them so far. So all these big changes are happening this year in 2020. And I think it's pretty exciting that a different comic thought that it was their time to come and step into the ring and actually see if they could have a fighting chance. And honestly, I really hope they do. It'd be refreshing to see Valiant Comics kind of come into the game and come into their own.
If you like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. If you like this type of video, if you like this content of us discussing superhero movies, comic book news, all geek news in general, and definitely leave your thoughts on the video about Bloodshot and what you thought of the movie.